For more than 4 decades, protest groups and political agitators were spied on by a secret unit of the Metropolitan Police. Today, a report covering the first 14 years of operations by the Special Demonstration Squad has concluded there was hardly ever a legitimate reason for the surveillance. The chair of the Undercover Policing Inquiry, Sir John Mitting, asks, did the end justify the means? It did not. The squad would have been brought to a rapid end if what it was up to had been made public. In the early 70s, Diane was in the Women's Liberation Front, a group spied on by several officers.
One of the most painful things to me is to know that someone I was friends with, someone I would have invited into my home and given hospitality to, was making these notes.
Today's report says it was obvious that surveillance wasn't worth it.
One of the spies had written screeds of stuff about my childcare arrangements, the fact that my husband stayed home and looked after our baby while I went out to work. This seemed to outrage him, and he seemed to be obsessed with that. Was this a threat to the state?
But for years, ministers just kept bankrolling the squad's activities, even when officers began using death certificates of children to create their identities. No questions were asked. Not until 2013, when whistleblower Peter Francis revealed fellow officers had had relationships and even fathered children with women they were spying on. The victims feel vindicated by the inquiry's findings. The report says that the intrusion into their personal lives required justification. The deceitful entering of people's homes might amount to trespass, and the use of the identities of dead children are all issues that should have been addressed at the highest level in the Metropolitan Police and in the Home Office. The Met Police insist undercover operations are now much more strictly supervised.
I apologise, we have already apologised. It should never have taken place, and managers should have known what was going on and stopped it.
My crime was that I'm a trade unionist and I was fighting for better health and safety and against deaths on building sites. People lost their livelihoods. People were out of work for years, not for breaking any laws, not for bombing people. I'm not a terrorist, I'm a trade unionist. And what they were doing to us is an outrage.
This inquiry only examined undercover surveillance of protesters from the 60s to the 80s. There are another 3 decades to examine, work that is expected to take another 3 years. Catherine Jones, 5 News.